10 years off and on. I don't know how many rehabs. It must be at least almost 20 times I tried rehab. A lot of us are limping around, and it's pretty hard out here. It was really bad. I'd stay up for a lot of days, and I would hallucinate, and I have schizophrenia.
Welcome to U.S. Homeless Stories.
With my mom being a heroin addict, I was named after Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue, who's also a heroin addict, so I thought I was pretty doomed. So I didn't start using it until I was 18. I was dating a guy who sold it out of Westchester.
In Kensington, Philadelphia, mornings begin not with birds or cars, but with the sound of needles hitting the ground, people gasping for air from a high. Under bridges, on sidewalks, on abandoned railroad tracks, bodies sprawled like nameless corpses.
A lot of people call us zombies because you'll see people with open wounds from the train. It's pretty disturbing sometimes. I mean, you can see the bone in some people. A lot of us are limping around.
Fentanyl and xylazine, a mixture that destroys the whole body, leaves skin festering, flesh rotting, bones exposed between the arms. People inject drugs in the middle of the street, sometimes unable to pull the needle out. Some die sitting down, eyes wide open, bodies frozen like statues. The government talks about rehabilitation, about support programs, but no one believes it anymore. Because when the sun goes down, Kensington comes back to life, not with laughter, but with groans, the sound of bodies falling to the cold pavement. The people here are no longer afraid of death. They were afraid of waking up to find themselves still living in hell. Kensington didn't need more promises. It needed a miracle, because if it didn't, the whole neighborhood would disappear, not from bombs, but from the salt-sized doses that had wiped out life. One, daily reality on the streets of Philadelphia. Each morning in Kensington, the city wakes differently. For thousands, the day begins not with coffee or commute, but with the rustle of a tarp and the chill of damp pavement. The wind moves through the narrow streets carrying the sounds of sirens, trains, and quiet exhaustion. Here, survival is a routine. People rise before sunrise to avoid police sweeps or to search for food before the shelters fill. The median income in this neighborhood is around $28,000, barely half the city's average, and every dollar earned disappears fast to cover the smallest necessities. Under the bridges and along the sidewalks of Lehigh Avenue, tents stretch for blocks. They're patched together from blankets, plastic, and hope. Each one shelters a story, someone who lost a job, a home, or simply ran out of chances. The contrast is striking. Within miles of the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall, many Philadelphians live without the freedom those symbols represent. Winter bites hard, yet people share layers of clothing or trade gloves for food, showing a sense of unity forged through hardship. Outreach teams from local groups like Project Home or Prevention Point move quietly through the streets, distributing Narcan and warm meals, offering small pieces of dignity to those the city too often forgets. But even in this struggle, humanity refuses to disappear. A smile shared over donated coffee, a quick joke, a helping hand, these become the currency of survival. Life here isn't about giving up. It's about finding strength in moments that most people never see. Have you ever walked past someone sleeping outside and wondered what their story might be? Share your thoughts below, and if you believe these stories need to be told, subscribe to U.S. Homeless Stories. 2. The unescapable temptation of drugs.
When I was doing drugs, I mean, it was really bad. I'd stay up for a lot of days, and I would hallucinate, and I have schizophrenia, and I'm not sure what set that off, but I got it a couple years ago in my 20s.
In Kensington, Philadelphia, fentanyl has become the city's quiet destroyer. Despite 50 million doses seized across Pennsylvania in 2025, nearly half tied to this city, the supply never stops. The air here feels heavy, filled with a mix of desperation and chemical haze. Along the sidewalks, people gather not for conversation, but for survival, seeking a momentary escape from pain, cold, and the noise inside their heads.
How I can go and try to get clean without trying to relapse. Because every time I go to a program or rehab, the longest I've stayed in one was probably a month, month and a half, maybe 2 at the longest. And then every time I go, I leave, and I get high. I always ask the police officers and the paramedics, did I overdose? They'll tell me yes. But then I won't remember what I did right before I go out.
The drug doesn't promise joy, it promises silence, and that silence becomes addictive. Emergency calls never slow. Hospitals report a 40% surge in overdoses since 2024, with outreach workers reviving the same faces day after day. Fentanyl now appears in stronger, deadlier forms, often mixed with tranquilizers like xylazine and medetomidine. Even a tiny mistake in dosage can stop a heartbeat. The addiction spreads like a whisper through encampments, claiming lives block by block. At US Homeless Stories, we witness this every day, real people caught in an endless battle between life and escape. 3. The lasting harm it leaves behind. The true devastation of addiction isn't only seen in the statistics, it lives in the eyes of those who've lost almost everything. In Philadelphia, the fentanyl crisis has carved deep scars into the city's streets. Hospitals still overflow with patients battling infections from contaminated drugs. Limbs are lost, voices grow hoarse from withdrawal. But the greater damage is harder to treat, the collapse of trust, dignity, and belonging. Families stop answering the phone, friends vanish, even hope begins to feel like a distant memory. On the streets of Kensington, you can feel the weight of it. Each corner tells a story of what addiction takes: dreams, health, and sometimes identity itself. Many of those trapped in this cycle once had normal lives, steady jobs, families, laughter. Now, their days blend together, measured only by the next fix or the next cold night. Recovery centers try, but relapse comes fast, when stability is a luxury few can afford. The body heals slower than the soul, and the soul often has nowhere left to go. That's the lasting harm addiction leaves behind, a war inside the human spirit that never truly ends. 4. Root causes of the crisis. Philadelphia's homelessness crisis runs deeper than surface-level hardship. It's the outcome of long-standing economic imbalance and policy failure. The city's minimum wage, frozen at $7.25 an hour for over 15 years, has not kept pace with soaring living costs. In 2025, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment has reached around $1,950 per month. For minimum wage workers, survival requires more than 140 hours of labor weekly, leaving many unable to afford even the basics. With a cost of living index at 104.5, Philadelphia has become increasingly unaffordable for the very residents who sustain its economy. Gentrification adds another layer of strain. In neighborhoods like Kensington, redevelopment projects have grown by roughly 15% over the past few years, but these new homes are far beyond local means. Longtime residents are displaced as property values climb, while shelters report rising demand. Kensington's unemployment rate of about 12% reflects limited job opportunities, and roughly 20% of the city's unhoused population struggles with untreated mental health issues. Public programs, though well-intentioned, remain underfunded and overwhelmed. The roots of today's crisis reach back decades to discriminatory zoning and redlining practices that carved deep divisions across Philadelphia. These policies left many areas without investment or opportunity, trapping generations in poverty. Now, economic stagnation, mental health neglect, and housing shortages combine into a cycle that feels impossible to break. Philadelphia's story mirrors that of many American cities. Until wages, housing, and social services rise together, the cycle of instability will continue, turning neighborhoods once full of promise into reminders of how close survival and collapse truly are. Five, the hopeless cries for help from the homeless. Philadelphia's homelessness crisis speaks through silent pleas echoing across its streets. In 2025, more than 5,800 people live without stable housing, and nearly 1,000 sleep outside each night. Kensington remains the heart of this struggle, where tents cluster under bridges and along sidewalks, temporary shelters in a city known for its liberty. Each dawn begins with a familiar battle, finding warmth, food, or a safe corner before police sweeps dismantle encampments. Every removal erases what little stability people manage to build. Behind the numbers are human faces. Veterans who once wore the nation's uniform now fight unseen wars with trauma. Single mothers clutch their children in shelters that reach 95% capacity each winter. Many wait years for Section 8 vouchers, and others can't even apply without ID or internet access. Outreach workers estimate over 2,000 people pass through Kensington monthly, moving between hope and exhaustion as resources stretch thin. Programs like Project Home and Prevention Point try to fill the gaps, but the need keeps outpacing support. Along Lehigh Avenue, fires flicker in rusted barrels, their light revealing faces weathered by cold and fatigue. These are cries not just for shelter, but for dignity. They are reminders that the fight for survival unfolds daily in the shadows of one of America's oldest cities. At U.S. Homeless Stories, we amplify these voices, real people whose pain reflects the cost of neglect. If their stories move you, leave a comment, share your thoughts, and subscribe to ensure these cries are never ignored again. Six, vulnerable groups. Across Philadelphia, some lives are pushed closer to the edge than others. Older adults, especially those in their late 50s and 60s, are increasingly part of the city's homeless population. Many live on fixed pensions of around $200 a month, nowhere near enough for rent that averages $1,950. Age and illness make the struggle even harder. Once active workers, they now face long nights on benches or in crowded shelters, hoping for rest that never comes. Families face a different pain. In Kensington, where women form more than half the community, many single mothers fight daily to protect their children. Nearly half of these families are Black, and 1 in 4 children across Philadelphia lives below the poverty line. Mothers go hungry so their kids can eat. They cling to hope inside shelters, trying to rebuild dignity while the world moves on outside. Then there are the young. LGBTQ+ youth, often rejected by family, wander the streets searching for belonging. Some have aged out of foster care, others fled unsafe homes. Formerly incarcerated individuals face the same wall of rejection. Percent end up homeless within 2 years of release, denied work or housing because of their past. These are not isolated struggles. They are the faces of a system stretched thin, where vulnerability meets indifference. Every statistic hides a heartbeat, a person still fighting to be seen. If these stories move you, subscribe to U.S. Homeless Stories. Your support helps shine a light on those too often forgotten and reminds the world that compassion still matters. Seven, current and limited efforts. Across Philadelphia, efforts to fight homelessness show both resolve and fatigue, a city trying to hold the line against a rising storm. The Office of Homeless Services leads this mission, managing 85 shelters that fill almost every night. Its coordinated entry system connects over 4,000 people a year to housing or support. But behind each number are faces still waiting, families turned away when beds run out, people drifting between shelters and cold streets. Groups like Project Home and Pathways to Housing PA bring hope through the Housing First model, giving over 1,200 residents stability with a 90% success rate after 1 year. Their work proves that housing is more than shelter, it's recovery. Yet for every life rebuilt, another waits in line. Federal HUD grants help, but with a shortage of 200,000 beds nationwide, every city, including Philadelphia, feels the strain. In Kensington, a 17% drop in certain crimes in 20 to 24 signals progress, but barriers persist. Missing IDs, years-long Section 8 waitlists, and scarce mental health care keep many trapped in survival mode. The city's 1.7 million residents, 10% immigrants, see both compassion and exhaustion in their neighborhoods. These efforts prove change is possible, but compassion alone won't solve it. Policy, persistence, and empathy must work together. If this story moves you, share your thoughts below. What do you think is the best way to end homelessness? Leave a comment and subscribe to US Homeless Stories, where every struggle deserves to be heard. 8. Personal reflections. Working on US Homeless Stories has changed me in ways I didn't expect. Walking through Kensington, the heart of Philadelphia's struggle, I've seen things that statistics could never show. Just a few blocks from the Liberty Bell, the symbol of freedom itself, are people fighting every single day just to survive. The air smells of cold rain and exhaustion. Yet in that same place, I've seen small acts of kindness that prove humanity still burns quietly beneath the pain. A woman offering her last sandwich, a man sweeping the sidewalk where he sleeps. These are moments that stay with you long after the camera turns off. Homelessness isn't only about losing a home, it's about losing stability, trust, and often a sense of being seen. Behind every tent is a story. Maria, who lost her job, but never her dignity. Jamal, who keeps dreaming of rebuilding his life even when no one's watching. Their courage makes you question what success really means in a world where so many are left behind. Philadelphia's crisis, over 5,000 unhoused residents, rents above $1,600, and wages stuck at $7.25, shows how easy it is to fall and how hard it is to climb back up without help. What I've learned is simple. Empathy can't stay on the sidelines. It must move into action. Programs like Housing First prove that when people are given stability, 9 out of 10 stay housed. Change begins when we see the homeless not as strangers, but as reflections of ourselves. If stories like these move you, please subscribe to US Homeless Stories, share your thoughts below, and help us keep shining a light on the truth. Because the first step to change is caring enough to look closer and refusing to turn away. And proposed solutions and calls to action. The path forward for Philadelphia isn't just about numbers or policies. It's about rebuilding lives and restoring hope. Change begins with one simple truth. Housing is not a privilege, it's a human right. Across the city, over 40,000 vacant lots sit waiting, while thousands sleep on sidewalks. Imagine transforming those empty spaces into affordable homes, small communities where people can start over with dignity. Programs like Housing First prove it works. When someone has a roof over their head, recovery and stability follow. In cities that fully embrace this model, over 90% of participants remain housed after 1 year. But shelter alone isn't enough. The cycle of homelessness in neighborhoods like Kensington is fueled by unemployment and the crushing cost of living. Job training and community employment programs could become lifelines for those trying to re-enter the workforce. A minimum wage frozen at $7.25 an hour simply can't support survival when rent averages $1,650 for a one-bedroom. Raising wages, funding apprenticeships, and expanding green energy and construction jobs would give struggling residents a fighting chance. Mental health and addiction support must also move to the streets, meeting people where they are. Mobile response teams, same-day treatment, and outreach with compassion instead of punishment can turn despair into recovery. The solutions are known. It's the willpower that's missing. If you've ever wondered what true freedom means, think of the people sleeping under bridges in the city, once called the cradle of liberty. What would it take for every Philadelphian to have a safe place to call home? Share your thoughts below. Your voice matters. And if you believe stories like these deserve to be heard, hit subscribe to US Homeless Stories and join our mission to bring light, truth, and change to America's forgotten streets.